Yes, people, it's me, the one like Judi Love, and welcome to our table. We'll be having some great conversations and celebrating the excellence of creatives. It's time for us to sit at the table together, enjoying great food and great conversation. So whether you're a seasoned pro or an aspiring new artist, you're welcome to our table. The food is here. So we're going to bring over this food and then get into this juice. Oh, Dominic, what have you got for us today?
Yeah, so we've got some comfy duck, which is like dressed in a dark rum and raisin glaze.
Hold on, rewind that. In a dark rum?
Yeah, so dark rum and raisin. So I've kind of taken a really classic Caribbean flavour, but kind of remixed it. Like duck really lends itself well to sweetness. We've got that in a bao bun, so there's that kind of Asian-y vibe going on. And it's about thinking about Caribbean food from a different perspective. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, no, babe, this is rum.
Yeah.
Rum. Like, are we going to be on our head tops?
I'll do the beat. I'm not gonna lie, Judy's not fuller than my one.
If I'm honest, I'm fuller. I'm a fuller one. This looks amazing.
And it smells great.
I also dried my own raisins, so grapes, and dehydrated them in the oven. I did.
I've got raisins that have been soaked longer than relationships.
Yeah, man.
Just what I'm saying. Like, so when we think about it, we've got this great food, it's amazing to have you guys here with me. But, we were saying about those different things like lighting and stuff like that, and you've had certain experiences.
So I did a program for an unnamed broadcaster. Thank you, Fiona, for keeping me in the job. And it was like a political show, and just like, sort of a panel type discussion and talking about the stories of the day or of the week or whatever. And quite literally, the lighting was non-existent. Just my teeth, you could see. And it was awful.
How did it make you feel, like, when you saw that afterwards?
I said to them, I will never do the show again.
Wow.
I said, I'm not doing
Are
this.
they not embarrassed, though?
No. And that's what I asked.
Realise.
That's what I asked them. I said, so when this was going, because obviously I don't know how you're lighting. I can't see how you're lighting it. I couldn't see on the return or anything. And it was filmed in like a church. And it was, honestly, it was so dark whilst we were there. And I was like, ooh, are we going to have a bit more lights? Lol. And when I saw it went out, I was like, this is horrendous. Called the production company and I said, guys, you have got to do better. So they sent me some flowers to say sorry.
That is, you know what? I think it is about the education, because when it happened to me, I spoke to my agents, and the agent who I was speaking to at the time was Caucasian. And I said to him, look, the lighting is really bad. And they were like, oh, what do you mean? When they saw the video, I mean, the Jamaican in them came out. They were like, and they were really like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We had not experienced this because we haven't had a darker skinned black woman who we've represented. So, seeing this, it's educational to us. And they put their foot down.
What did you see after? The monitoring will show that you can't see the person.
In defense of the agents, they weren't there. So when they did their...
But the people in the room.
Team. But that's what I mean.
There's no
way that... There's
How's the lighting, by the way? Can you see?
I look good.
No, but there's no way that nobody from production or post-production didn't see this
production.
Right.
There's a monitor, there's directors. When I was at Netflix, one of the things that I set up was a scholarship for female cinematographers to make sure that actually there's so many black people on screen, black faces all the time.
Different tones.
And it's nuanced. Like we know what suits us, we know what colours suit us, we know what pops. Like it's so important for me, I'm never in front of the camera, but to have a black makeup artist, because I know there's things that they will recognise that no one will recognise.
Being a commissioner, when you was a commissioner at Netflix,
Who's a commissioner?
Was a commissioner at Netflix.
I'm funded.
And then
I
But now you have your own production company, but obviously working on such a massive platform, like it must have been such a vulnerable and almost not vulnerable, but a position of like standing there and saying like I've got to try and make a change, or I've got to try and address if there was. Not saying there was issues on Netflix, because a lot of the lighting on there seemed good to me, but being in a space like that, how much was that kind of conversation being had?
So all those conversations. So when Netflix hired me for that role, which was the head of UK film, it was the first time they'd hired someone.
Oh wow!
And that
someone
for that role in the UK. So before, people used to fly in from the US and commission for the UK audience.
Wow.
So it was pressure, but a lot of the kind of things you're talking about, I had that dialogue with myself.
Right.
Like, I think one of the things that happens to us as Black people is that when we're put in spaces, there's so much burden put on our shoulders because we're trying to represent you. But for me, because I know it's bigger than me, it's about all of us, but also I know I can't please all of us. I have to really like center kind of what's important to me. And those things have always been important from when I started off in film and TV, which is making sure that there's longevity for all of us, that there's pathways for all of us, but also that we can unburden ourselves to tell particular types of stories. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that actually I made a very kind of controversial project called The Strays, which was about a Black woman that abandoned her children.
Mm-hmm. Right, yes.
And so for me, that was like, actually I can do that because from what I know about Black motherhood, we are lionesses. We will always protect our children. But this story allows us to tell a story that just is a story. It doesn't reflect us. It's not about us as people. It doesn't reinforce a stereotype. It's just a story. And so a lot of kind of the things I wanted to do is like, let us have the freedom just to tell stories and enjoy stories without thinking, oh gosh, that didn't represent us well. That said something about me. That said this. That said that.
Feel though, because you do have that pressure.
Yeah, but
it's so much pressure.
Do you think it holds us back sometimes for being creative?
Yeah, because we don't have the level of freedom.
Yeah.
100%. Because I think that there's, like you so rightly said, Fiona, and you've put it so succinctly, is that we feel like we can only tell Black stories. Yeah. Number one, what is a Black story? And number two, we feel like we're telling a story for the whole entire community. I don't know about you, Judi, but when you're on like a major broadcaster, I feel that pressure on my shoulders.
Yeah,
in that moment, I am every single Black woman. Say something wrong or say something that someone doesn't like, the whole community will come for you or support you. It's a lot of pressure.
It's the pressure of if something has happened in the news or if anything's going on,
you're the voice.
Political, and then it's like, oh, you know, how do you feel that? And you're like, well, my experience might be different to the people that's living it. Just because we might share the same skin color doesn't mean our experience is the same.
Yeah.
And understanding, like in that moment, we're quite vulnerable. Like, and I think that's a word that plays made when we're talking about these different things and having these different stories. Like, how do we protect ourselves? Where is the safe space for us to be vulnerable? But when we're feeling so vulnerable that it's causing pressure.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's the nature of like racism. Because I think people see it as this thing of like, oh, I'm gonna call you a name or I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable. What you find embedded in racism is your lack of ability to be an individual. And it's something that a lot of white people don't have to think about. So if you take it back to the story that you said at the beginning, right? So when we're talking about lighting here, the lack of lighting reflects on your skin tone. Oh, you're too dark to be lit properly, rather than the person who's lighting you.
And when you put it like that, it's deep.
Well, exactly. So again, that person could then walk away without any responsibility because you're the issue. If your skin wasn't that hue, you'd be lit fine. In the same way that as a Black person, when you do something, you have an added thing that you need to think of. We have to think of what our whole community is going to think, how people who aren't in our community are going to think about us as a result of what we're saying. So for me, like when it comes to race and when we talk about the structure of racism, I don't want to take it too deep, you know what I mean?
We're ready there.
But it's something that we walk in every day, you know? And I think when you're talking about vulnerability, and I'm speaking to people like yourselves, when we think about comedy and all of that and the joy and the laughs, those are the things that allow us to manage that vulnerability that sits underneath it. We have these serious conversations. I know that I can go online, go on Instagram or something, and I can see something that's funny. And that relates to my identity. It lifts me out of that responsibility. And also, dash away the respectability politics, man. I don't care what you think. This is what I said. This is what I think. Come and fight me. You're not right. It's true, though, isn't it?
But you know what? On that, in all seriousness, the over-sexualization of especially Black women and Black men has really taken away from us knowing what is pleasure for us as individuals and having those loving relationships. When you think about the music and the videos and how we're supposed to be, remember, it's the younger ones that are seeing us, and even as women, being comfortable in our size, being comfortable in our complexion, there is certain things that is projected on how we're supposed to be. So having these honest conversations, that might be sometimes out there, it does actually bring some resolution.
I think like when you look at Black sexuality specifically, we're over-sexualized, but we're under-sexualized. We're allowed to be sexual in a particular box. Because as you were talking, I spoke about, like, can we swear?
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it out on the table. Not quite like that. But I you know I got a BBC show, right? Yeah. I spoke about getting my
Oh, Jesus, this
I'm just we're here now. Sit down now, we're here. We're adults.
I wasn't ready.
We're here now, we're here.
Ready? You know,
I beg you, let me land the plane. Let me land the plane.
So was he.
Let me land the plane.
So let's say this is going to be the one that releases at 11 p.m.
Let me land the plane.
How did we arrive here?
I'm going to expand.
I like the fact that you. Let's go.
Mum, it wasn't me.
You got to imagine, yeah? Radio 1 Extra, having a conversation around like black sex, etc. And so many people contact me afterwards, and it sounds funny. They're like, "Oh, you were really brave to talk about that." And in my head, I'm like,
Brave?
What's Richie Brave? No, but seriously, what's brave about having a conversation about something I've engaged in? And when it comes to women, when we talk about the over-sexualization of black women, there is this thing where they're seen as sexy and sexual, but as soon as they lean into their sexuality and own it and have autonomy over their own bodies, oh, you're a whore, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. So I think we are over-sexualized, but we don't have the autonomy to be able to express it in all ways.
Is that black women? Is that just black women?
Black men as well, because people are like, brother, why are you talking about this on the radio?
Isn't that just all women?
I think
it's
black women
us.
especially, because I think we've been taught to be repressed. We have to repress ourselves and repress that side of us. Because like you said, we're over-sexualized until we take autonomy over that, and then we have to be repressed.
It feels like it's harder for a woman of colour to come back from if she had her moments of being out and out.
I do feel like things are beginning to shift.
I think there's a narrative that has been placed over us for many years, which we know where it comes from, and that's why all of that heaviness is kind of on us in creating us to feel a level of shame, a level of denial of what we want, and that actually really brings a lot of abuse to us as individuals anyway.
It takes time for these conversations to change. So, you know, like you're kind of, you know, what you was talking about enjoying just a moment ago, that conversation's been changing now. And you know, like for me to hear somebody start talking about bowing down, and I'm like, where are you from? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that still a thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be getting the sex that you want, because no one's not really caring what you think now. Do you know what I mean? So if I hear somebody say, the way I'm rolling my eyes, you know what I mean?
Like you're getting in bed with them, so why are you bothering? Are you alright there, Fiona? Because Fiona's
I'm just about recovered.
You look kind of flushed still. You right, Biebs?
No, because I've been in such a relationship for such a long time. Like, I met my husband at university, so it's been like over 20 years.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
It is beautiful, but honestly, I am sometimes like when I speak to my single friends and they tell me about dating,
it's the trenches.
Babe,
even if I wanted to
leave
if I wanted to leave my husband, I couldn't.
Babe, don't. Mister, don't do it.
What is happening? I feel like there's something happening in terms of like just relationships.
Listen,
I don't understand
it's dust and desert out there. People are settling down with their past red flags. The flags is not even red no more. There's not even a flag on fire. It's just a stick.
There's fire.
Shit, I just punch the flag. Right? I can't even get the words out, right? And the thing is, I think depending on the circumstances, I was in a relationship, and I don't really do the whole relationship publicly, and because I feel like that's a part of me as a comedian. I'm so exposed anyway. And as a panelist, as a presenter, and I think that's the one area that I want to keep private. But from what I hear from friends who are single and things that people are engaging, I question what is really happening. I think for myself, some men are concerned about dating me because of the position I have in entertainment, but that is just one part of me. And to many other women who are they see as powerful or status, that's just one part. And I wonder whether we've lost the basis of like how our elders used to love.
I've got a theory.
What's the theory?
So my theory is, when I was growing up, I used to go to so many weddings as a child.
And christenings.
We used to sit on one chair with coats on. We sit there, it would be a buffet. But weddings and love and marriage was all about family.
Yeah.
Now when you go to weddings, like I've been to weddings where people spent 70k on weddings.
Babes, and then broke up in 3 months.
But also, it's no kids allowed.
No kids.
Yeah.
No kids allowed.
Yeah.
So a lot of weddings now, no kids are allowed to come. So my thing is like, I get it because listen, even when I was getting married, there was a child that I don't even know that was running up and down when we was doing our first dance.
There's always one.
There's always one.
Control your picture.
But there's no, but I'm conscious that like actually if kids are not seeing what love looks like and being in those environments, what does that mean for future generations?
You've nailed it. I
Interesting.
absolutely nailed it. I think if kids don't see what love looks like,
Yes.
what healthy love looks like,
Yes.
they don't know how to, they don't know what to look for, and they don't know how to replicate it, they don't know when it's toxic, and they don't know what real good love looks like. So I'm married now, but I was on my own with my daughter for maybe like about 8 years or something. And she has seen me, all she can remember is just her and mum. Her and mum, and then she'll see her dad, but mum and dad are not together. And now she sees me and her stepdad, and you know, she said to me, "You guys are so in love."
But it's so
My kids do
annoying.
that. They don't like you.
She hates it,
Yeah.
but I'm also showing her an example of what love looks like. Like, here's a husband and a wife, and a husband that doesn't play about his wife.
And do you know what? I'll be real with you. As a single parent, when my kids was a little bit younger, you know, I remember someone saying to me, nobody go have no more picnic with nobody else. You know what I mean? No man's not going to want you if you've got too much children and so on and so on. And then there was a period where, you know, I just did not date, you know, because I didn't want to meet someone, introduce them to the kids, and it didn't work. And then I watched this video one time. The kids were a bit older. I think it was Ayala Van Zandt. And there was a single mum there, and she'd broken up with her partner, and she was really emotional, and she felt really bad that she'd introduced a man to her children. They dated for 3 years, and it didn't work out. And what Ayala said to her was did he ever abuse you? She was like, no. Was he committed? Yes. Did you have great memories and all these other things? She said, yes. She goes, well, what you've got to take from it is you allowed your children to see you be loved. You allowed them to have an example of what a beautiful man can be, a beautiful black man can be, and that's the positive. So after I started dating, I was like,
Also, do you know what I think is an important point? For children to be able to see that even though two people are good people, sometimes things don't work out. And you can survive and you can be okay. And also I think another issue with like dating these days is nobody takes the time to sit down and think, what do I want in someone that I love? The conversation is always about this person needs to earn this amount of money, they need to look like this, they need to be like that, they need to have this personality, they need to be in those kind of, be into these kind of things. But what you end up doing is dating the ideology that someone else has created. So you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't connect with your core being. You need to figure out who you are inside and how that love will be reflected by somebody outside of you. And no one is going to be able to tell you what that person looks like, but you, your heart and your soul. It's impossible.
But one thing I will say, and I have to be conscious when I'm speaking to my friends that are dating, when me and my husband started dating, we didn't have anything. And so we started from scratch. There was nothing, so we were building together, we were growing together. I think it's different when you date older and you actually have wants and needs. And,
So
I mean, I got married when I was 40 for the second time, the last time. But yeah, amen, absolutely. But we are still building together. We still have that mentality. But absolutely, like if you had written us down on paper, you probably would never have put us together. But us together, what you've seen it.
Yes,
it just
your spirits.
Can I ask you, look?
Exactly.
Because at the moment, I've heard the women talk about marriage. What do you lot think of marriage?
My mum and dad have been together for 42 years and they're married.
That's like
It's a standard for me.
Yeah.
So you want to get married?
It's a good cheers, Fiona.
Big up mommy and daddy. Father and mother.
Do you know what I find difficult though? Because I don't think I'll ever get married.
Why is
But
that?
you know people that say this, they get married. Like, in a year's time, he'll be married.
No.
Kids are,
Why did you say that?
Do you want to get married?
That's the question.
I don't think that marriage is what it used to be. I don't think it represents what it used to represent.
Isn't it what you created though?
yes. What
But I feel as if now marriage is more of a contract. That's what I feel.
It always
personally.
has been.
It always has been, but at least for instance, when you got married, you were building together. You're building together now. But as you get older, and you become more solidified within your own. Right then.
You said it.
Look at
You
his
said
smile.
what you said to me. No, it was Richard that said it to me the other
Okay,
day.
so the position that you're in now,
Yeah.
right? Would you get married to somebody who probably didn't
It's
bring...
been filmed, right?
But you know, like if you
Don't kill the market.
Yeah, right. No, but it's like,
Would I?
you've
Go
got
on.
a lot to lose. Like you've worked really hard. You're successful. You've worked really hard. Would you take a risk on what you've built to marry somebody to potentially put that at jeopardy?
Well, I think that the experiences that I've had now allows me to be educated on how to protect myself.
She said prenup.
So-
She said paper.
So what I'm saying is, I would definitely be with someone who might not be on the same financial level, but they might be on a higher emotional level. Do you get what I'm saying? They might be on a different level, a different journey. They might have that experience that I don't have. So that dynamics of like, this bit might be 80, theirs might be 20, there might be somewhere else. And, we always hope for blessings that life will continue always going up. But when you go into the basics of 20 years later, is this the man that every morning I know he brings my little peppermint
Beautifully
tea?
said.
Do you know what I mean? When we look at Uncle them gone and we need little deep heat, is he the man that when I'm tired, he can say to me, you're tired. You're not answering no more phone calls. You're going to sleep. Because to me, that's going to be more powerful because one, you're going to protect me. I can be vulnerable to you because when I'm on the stage, I'm big with all this. I need someone off the stage that can have that all gone and they still love me.
Is that worth half your money?
It's more than that. It's worth more than that.
Speak for yourselves.
I don't value it to money.
I know.
No, but it's
that's-
worth more than that. That is everything. Because at the end of the day, right, when your kids are grown and they've left the house, when it's just you two sitting on the veranda, with the mosquitoes biting you, are you gonna be happy in that?
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
All right then.
It's peace.
Kane,
but
talk us through it.
Yeah, but wait. All right, so you guys are talking about an ideology, yeah?
No, we're talking about facts.
It's not facts because...
No, it's facts. It's facts for us.
but
It can be facts for you.
That's what I'm saying. But you're talking about, you guys have found good men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. We have.
So
Receive it.
what I'm saying, so you guys are in a privileged position. There's a lot of people out there that are looking to hang on to.
Yeah.
But I think what they're saying is they're looking from the wrong perspective.
Yeah, and love is a risk.
But how do we
social
navigate
media has
That's what I'm
mashed
saying.
up everything.
Yeah.
So
Of course it has.
people are kind of like looking at all of the wrong things as opposed whatever happened to chirps in somebody? That's gone out the window now.
word
Do you know what I mean?
for
We're talking to people again.
But it's so true.
Do you know what I
But
mean?
it goes back to what Richie said, is that we're looking at, or we have an ideal of what that person will look like. How much do they earn? How do they dress? What is their hair is like? What music do they listen to? But at the end of the day, who makes your soul sing?
And you feel it.
Yeah, who
Did you say
sings to you?
Safe.
Sing.
It's important.
Safe and sing.
Honestly,
Yeah.
And
that's
when
what
we're
home.
when we're thinking of love, like we see all the hashtags black love, but I suppose for me defining, I don't know how you would define black love. I think as long as it's whether it's a woman and a man together, or a woman, a man, a man, whether your partner is not black, but I'm seeing a black woman, a black man being loved and taken care of and nurtured. To me, that is what black love is. And I think when we talk about things like this, this is why probably it is important for us to question why we're not getting married, to question why our family dynamics are breaking down.
completely changed.
Do you know what I mean?
Completely
Because
changed.
this is actually making us more separate than actually building us up as individuals. Whether you're marrying someone who is black or from a different community, it's still pouring in, seeing you happy with whoever is still black love. I don't know if you agree with.
And I think also our grandparents worked through a lot more stuff. Now we want to pack up our things.
I mean, they worked
I
so
hate my
through
granddad.
at
I
granddad's
hate that
funeral.
guy.
You hate your granddad?
Your
Yeah, I
cousins
hate
turning
that
up.
guy.
You didn't
Why?
know.
Why?
I left my dad with 5 youths. So my granddad and my nan came over here from Guyana. As soon as my nan got here with her 5 children, he left her for another woman. So yeah, I'm not.
I hear that.
Our grandparents, I think sometimes what we do is we like idolize and we romanticize that era. But when phones weren't around, you know, and you couldn't catch people out, what was going on back then was crazy. And then like you've got to understand the financial realities for women back in those days as well. So actually, like women in this country, when you couldn't get a mortgage until like the 60s and 70s. A lot of what you were able to do was through having a husband. So a lot of our grandparents, the partners, but like some of these women didn't want to stay in those relationships, but because of the I'm being so deep, I'm sorry, but because of the socio-economic positions they were in, they didn't have a choice. And it is amazing for me. I'm not saying rock up all the families, but I do think it's amazing that women do have a choice these days to say, actually, this relationship isn't serving me, and I am not beholden to this thing that's not making me happy, that is abusive to me, that is tearing chunks out of me. I am now able to leave it because I don't think our grandparents
the most valuable thing I can say is having peace. Whether in the relationship or by yourself, it's about having that level of peace.
Yeah,
definitely.
Our journey is funny because we're of the same. I think we're all of the same generation.
I'm in my 20s.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, how old are you?
50.
Get on my nerves.
51 too.
I'm a picky for you.
Same, still, same. Same. So go on, uncle. Give us wisdom.
Thank you.
You look good, man.
You 50-year-old men, some of you lot are taking, because I had this conversation with Richie the other day, some of you lot are taking the mick.
It's true.
You're coming out
Man said
here.
silver fox. You know?
Yeah, I'll never die it. I'll never die it.
Speak for yourself again.
Yeah. But our grandparents went through a lot and our parents learned from that. And then we're in a space now where we were probably all born here and we're navigating through. This is the first time we're navigating this experience as a generation of black people where our grandparents left, had to leave their children. Our parents came here when they were young, I presume. I don't know if that's the case with everybody. Came here when they were young and had to navigate and still had ties back to the Caribbean or Africa or wherever. We're the first to be born here and navigating this because everything's been opened up to us, so we can date who we want. We've got more opportunities. We're more like part of the UK, as it were. Do you know what I mean? We understand.
When you say that part of the UK, how do you feel like you're British?
No, but it's really weird.
We understand it.
We understand where we are. We understand where we are.
Yeah.
We understand the dynamics, but we don't feel like. We
understand it more.
Yeah, but we don't feel like. My mum's gone back to Jamaica.
Right.
So even though she left when she was 6, that still felt like home to her.
She feels like a Jamaican.
She's still a Jamaican. But I don't feel like either, really.
It's crazy, isn't it? Stuck in between.
So I'm kind of in between. I wouldn't go back. I don't think I could live in Jamaica.
You know, it's strange you say that because I used to go back to Jamaica, lived in there for a couple of years. And then for about 6 years, I never went back. I wasn't feeling like Jamaica was it. And then when my dad passed away and I buried him back home, I remember going back and sitting on the veranda and I'm just looking out and I just had this sense of like, okay, Dad, that's why you went back.
Yeah.
And since he's been buried there, I felt like that is not necessarily home, but it's a place I can always go back to and feel healed up. I think there has to be some kind of emotional connection.
Yeah, there is a connection, but it doesn't feel like that's my home. Like if I went to live there, I wouldn't feel like.
But I do feel like because my mum's Nigerian, my dad's Jamaican,
right?
So there's pure fire in here. But I do feel as soon as I touch down.
In where, Jamaica or?
Anywhere where I'm surrounded by black people, it feels like home.
It's fascinating you said that because that's how I felt when I went back to Jamaica. It felt like, oh my God, it feels so nice and embracing because it's just all my people around me. Everywhere you go, it's a reflection of navigating all of that.
It's a different
It's
type
not
of
there.
politics,
But then you have to deal with customer service and understanding the nuances of the new culture now because it's not our culture. And then I'm ignorant now.
Hearing that your cousin's roof have a leak, and sister Sharon daughter needs school fees, and the pressure, they have hospital appointment, and they come $100 then.
But I think that, a lot of our parents, when they came here, so my parents, both from Ghana, came here in the 70s. And when they came here, they were encouraged, not to teach us the language. They were encouraged to integrate and all the rest of that. And I think there was a fear back then of passing on too much of back home because they wanted us to be British.
If I'll be honest, I think that was more to do with the West African community.
Yeah.
Jamaicans, I don't feel like we felt that. Because my household, it was Jamaica. Inside my house was Jamaica.
I think for me, I feel there was a level of, like, you know, the speaky spokey. You had the
you had that.
They kind of tried
Yes,
to be a bit more speaky
yes.
spokey.
Yes.
I wonder if that pushes into the narrative. I don't know if you ever felt like, you know, especially like in the industry or corporate, being the acceptable black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
Until I open my mouth and they're like,
Yes.
oh, he's definitely not acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say about your parents.
Yeah, and then I think for me, I've always felt such a pull to Ghana, always.
I love Ghana. My husband's Ghanaian.
But
is he?
exactly, and he's, you know, he's fantastic. Like my husband.
Is your name then?
No,
No,
I
he's
know.
not
I
here,
know.
so it's fantastic.
I know. He's a Lamptey, I know. And
Is he Lamptey?
No, your husband's
husband.
Lamptey. But I met my husband in Ghana as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
just
yeah.
go and check the flight.
No flight from here.
So and for me, because he, you know, has lived there all his life, I'm so much more immersed in the culture and in my culture than I ever have been. And that has been so healing for me on so many different levels. And go back to what you said about just being who you are, just being who I am. I think he has encouraged that so much in me. Like, I'm able to be so much more of myself. It's also a mirror for me. I've had to really do some deep work, but I think people are also afraid of that in relationships and in marriage.
Of
being so vulnerable,
So seen.
of making yourself vulnerable, but also, like you said, making yourself so seen, feeling so seen, being so seen. That is work too.
Yes.
In a marriage.
Talk up the things, man. Yes.
You're not married, are you?
No, I'm not married, no.
What do you guys think about marriage then?
Do you know, I love love. I love love. You know, you were saying earlier about being emotional. I'm super emotional, so I'm really in touch with how I feel about, you know, whether it's extreme anger, which I've been working on. But yeah, I love love. So, you know, I remember my auntie and uncle, when they got married, super massive wedding. And I just remember kind of how I felt. I was a page boy. And it was
You must
just
be so cute. I know. And your little shorts and tea, I can see it.
I had knickerbockers on, you know? And the high socks.
Oh, wait, you're not the same age as me.
Don't know that.
Yeah, so,
And you remember that is something significant.
oh, absolutely. That stood out in my mind of this is love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they broke up now, but, but they were together for like 30 years, you know, 35 years.
Wow.
And, you know, it was beautiful, but whether I'm about to get married, I doubt it, but
I'm on it. You know what? Yeah, I am,
love
you
hearing
know.
that.
So like I'm like you, Judi, in terms of like being private. I don't like putting all of that out there. But I got into a relationship.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, like, my yeah. Just half my business. Yeah. But like,
Now we know.
I got into a relationship recent-ish, right? And it has changed the way I view love. And I didn't know that it was possible to love another person in the way that I feel now. So like married,
scary, isn't it?
yeah, like
That's
so,
scary.
yeah, like yo, it's so frightening.
Yeah.
My God, but like I've always thought, I want to get married. Like marriage is something I would love to do. And then I got in this relationship, and I was like, oh no, like what is more beautiful than having a day in front of all the people that love you and all the people from your past to show like this is my person. I'm not religious, so it's not a God ordained thing for me in that way. But like I'm gushing now, but I just feel like the way someone loving you and you loving someone can change your expectations, your view of love, what you think the future is, the things that you said you'll never do or you never like. You find yourself doing some stuff where you think,
Tell you
I'll
about
never
it.
do that.
You told us already.
No. But wait, even me, not them kind of things. Some of those things. Not all of them.
Do you not think also it comes from a place, you know, especially we're all here as creatives, like, and sometimes we're doing things on our own, sometimes we're doing with people collectively. But I think, you know, being in a place of where we are, it can be quite vulnerable. And I think what I've learned in these last 5 years how important it is to love yourself.
That's the most important thing.
And be comfortable. I think
Absolutely.
also the privilege we've all got is that we're so comfortable in our own skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is a privilege that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
But even being comfortable in my own skin, I just know what I will and won't tolerate. I just know, I know myself to know that actually these things frustrate me, these things I will tolerate, these things I can get over, but actually these are definite no's for me. And in every area of my life, whether it be professional or personal, like my tolerance for nonsense is like zero.
Did your
Me too.
marriage change that? So like in terms of what you do tolerate, what you do think, all of those kind of things,
I
did
think-
your marriage influence it?
So I'm the eldest out of 5. My husband's the youngest out of 6.
Oh,
So the
wow.
dynamic from the very beginning is like so different.
Yeah.
He's Ghanaian, very lovely, you know, lovely people, fire on both sides, my mum and my dad. So I feel like, but being married changes you anyway because it's compromise. You know, there's
Is it I always say I don't want to compromise. I want to have balance.
There's compromise. It's compromise.
I think it's a bit of both, but
Yeah.
also
Compromise is important.
we're raised differently.
Yeah.
We were raised so differently. But the thing is our principles and our morals are
same,
aligned.
yeah.
And so within that, like when you get to the root of the person, who are they? What do they stand for? What do they believe in? Those are the things that are important. Everything else, you kind of work it out. You know, it frustrates you less and less as years go by.
The conversation of love. So I would ask you all, like, what did you do? What was the defining moment where you realised that you are loving your true self?
Great question.
Good question.
I think when you can just be yourself, no matter how people judge you, whatever they say. Like I know it sounds bad. You have to get to a space where you care, but I don't actually care what people think of me.
Yeah.
I literally don't care. And not because it doesn't affect me, but this is who I am. So if you don't want to accept me for who I am, I'm not that bothered. You're not my person, or you're not my people. So I'm not bothered. And I think that comes with age. And that's what I'm trying to instill in my kids, because I can see them kind of trying to navigate life and people please. And I said, don't worry about nobody else. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. What you think, it doesn't matter. So now it's on my terms. Now I can be authentic.
Yeah.
So authenticity for me is the main thing. That's what I live and die by.
I love that.
I think for me, I learned probably the hard way that other people's opinions of me are none of my business. But I also know that I'm getting better every day, like a fine wine.
I think for me, it's getting to those moments of allowing myself to be so vulnerable that I almost strip myself to the core, and then realizing you built yourself back up again.
Amen.
So I have to love you, especially in times where there's not no one. Obviously, my children and family, but the more I build into me and the more I love me is the more I can have for others. So I think that's what's made me kind of sit down and think, wow, you went through that and you got here, and you went through this and you got there. And so for that, I love myself and I thank myself and I appreciate myself, because I think this is it. This body, this eyes, this laughter, this is what the extra belly, it's here. Like, it's all here. And I love it because it's brought me to the space of where I am now. It's brought me to the space that I am in now. And if I'm ever going to want someone to love me like that, I have to love me first.
Amen.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I've got older, so I'm 43, gonna be 44 this year, so I'm 6 years younger than. I'm just saying.
Just so you know,
Just so
everybody's
you
younger
know.
than you.
And
You're welcome.
I've only just recently stepped into a place where I've fully understood myself. And with that, I've understood that for me to offer myself grace, I have to offer others grace. For me to have patience with myself, I have to have patience with others. And it's kind of like in the last 6 months, I've gone through this epiphany. And like me and my mum's relationship have got a lot closer. We just went to Barbados the other day.
Oh, I love that.
Like I was vulnerable with her, which then opened the floor to vulnerability. I think she said things to me that she's never said to another person in her life.
That's beautiful.
I come to understand, some of the pain she carried about being left in Jamaica as a child and things I didn't know. And I saw a girl in my mum for the first time in my life. And I was suddenly like, you was a girl first and then my mum. And I've just always seen you as my mum. I thought you were born my mum. You know what I mean? But I suddenly realized that she had hopes and dreams and a whole life before me. And, it then made me realize that life is short. And the bigger picture is everybody is so focused on being the main character in their own movie. They haven't got time for you. They've got about 5 seconds to give you attention. Then they're back to being the main character in their own movie. So live your life, because you're going to get to the end and realize that you've got all this regret. All this regret. And no one was looking anyway. You know what I mean?
Yourself, Richie?
Well, I'm younger than him, and maybe a little bit older than you. No, on a serious level, I don't have any definitive answer. It's something that I'm still managing. It is a work in progress. I love myself most days, and there are some days where I look in the mirror and I don't feel like I do. And I think that is just part of who I am. And there were a lot less days where I loved myself when I was young, and they grow and grow and grow as I've gotten older. So I think it'd be wrong of me personally, because I look at people all like yourselves and listen to you talk, and that's where I'm trying to be. It wouldn't be authentic of me to sit here and say, I've reached that space. I haven't. Like, it's a work in progress. So I'm on that journey, and although it's difficult, there is beauty in that journey. And I think I'm less focused on loving myself every day and more focused on enjoying the journey to getting there. That's what I'd say I am.
I love that.
That's gorgeous. I don't think there's a definitive moment, but I would also say, so I had twins, so I've got 2 girls.
Oh, I've got congrats.
Oh, have you?
wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I think having girls, I haven't never known any children, but just knowing that I just wanted to make their world better. And so I knew to do that, I would have to, the view I have of myself, because they're going to be looking at me, is important, but also instilling certain things in them, which I think we've gone the other way, because one of them asked for an emotional support puppy the other day, and I'm like, sorry.
How old are they?
They're 10.
Yeah.
It's a good age.
Yeah, exactly. But just allowing myself to define what success means to me, like understanding that actually the world has a version of what success is, and actually that doesn't always align with your version. And allowing room for failure, because failure is where you learn. Failure is where you think, okay, you can redirect your route. Those things are really important to me. So I think having them and just knowing I wanted to make it better. And they are a representation of all Black girls, to be honest.
See, this is why it's so important for us to be together and have these conversations, because we just did a whole thing about love and vulnerability, and from someone who's a producer, owns a production company, you know what I mean, a radio host, a chef, a comedian, a royal correspondent, and
I just found out what you did.
I mean, I love that, and another comedian, and it's so important for us to have these conversations because others want to hear, others experience it, and that's why it's just a beautiful thing having you here at our table. So let's cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you. Amazing conversation.
Cheers.